"15 years ago, I began travelling to the remote regions of Australia in search of adventure. Now I'm about to begin my most dangerous and challenging journey. Brett Nixon, on leave from university, has joined me, and together we intend to travel from Sydney to Niugini in a 5-metre boat. At our departure point, the Sydney Opera House, the media and the companies supporting the expedition are out in force. The water police check our safety equipment. I say farewell to my family. And in the last hectic moments, a copy of my latest book is handed to Mr. McKellar, the Minister for Immigration. He's presented us with a letter of goodwill from Australia to the government and people of New Guinea. I've nurtured this idea for years, and now after months of preparation, it's all happening. This journey, possibly the longest ever undertaken in such a small boat, has captured the interest and the imagination of Australians. The Royal Life Saving Society rescue boat and the New South Wales Water Police provide an escort out to the heads. And now we're on our own. It's almost impossible to comprehend that north of us lie thousands of nautical miles of ocean that we have to face in this boat. We've named her La Loki, after the river near Port Moresby, our destination several months from now. For the first few days, the weather is favourable. Then conditions get worse, with winds gusting up to 30 knots and battered by rain squalls from the south. We race for shelter at Nambucca Heads. Our boats are shambles, and in the quiet refuge of the Nambucca River, we repack our gear and wait for the seas to abate. Our greatest danger will be the hazardous entrances to the rivers and harbours. The ocean swell meets the shallow, shifting sand, and the result is a build-up of turbulent waters. Getting through safely is called crossing the bar. A local fisherman explains to Brett the procedure for negotiating the notorious bar at Nambucca Heads. We wait for 2 days until conditions moderate, and then give it a go. Over the first swell, and the second, and now the third wave builds dangerously. This is the critical point. A wrong move, and the boat will be lost. Let's have a look at that situation again in slow motion. The bow must be kept straight on to the wave, with just enough power to get the boat well clear. A good boat, even under these conditions, will land perfectly. Accelerate, and you're out of danger. Daily, we travel for up to 8 hours. Our only break, if it's calm, is a meal on board. Well, at least a hot drink and a snack of nuts and dried fruit. A 12-volt water heater is our only cooking appliance. With so much fuel on board, a stove of any kind would be too dangerous. As the days pass, we gradually leave Sydney far to the south. When the weather allows, we'll motor right up the east coast of Australia to Thursday Island. Then across Torres Strait to New Guinea, where we'll journey 300 nautical miles up the Fly River. Eventually, the expedition will finish at Port Moresby. Hough's Harbour, the big fishing port, is our next stop. We refuel and move on. Cape Byron, the most easterly point of Australia, is finally behind us, and the next day we're off the coast of Queensland, the mecca for so many tourists. Surfers' paradise, a monument to man's development, reminds us that we'll still have a long way to go before we escape from big city influence. In the Brisbane River, Lauloki is dwarfed by the recently completed Melita. It too is heading north as luxury accommodation for millionaire marlin fishermen. With refueling stations further apart from now on, fuel supplies really begin to dictate our movements. After 8 days travelling, we're off Cairns. The weather is still unsettled, but warmer, and a new pair of shorts is required. The calm, sheltered waters of Cairns Harbour make a welcome respite before the next leg. Windy, squally conditions continue to plague us, and we put in a rough, slow and tiring 4 days attempting to reach Cooktown. We sleep, eat and live in our 5-metre boat. At night, the seats are moved to the stern and our swags rolled down each side. Cameras, recorders and film are stacked under the shelter of the canopy. Hardly a luxury apartment, but after the long day jolting over rough seas, it's all that we need. We wait for the weather to improve, sheltering in the Endeavour River at Cooktown. The river was named after Captain Cook's ship, which was repaired on this very bank in 1770. A dead tree at the top of the mud bank is claimed to be the same one that Cook tied Endeavour to, and it's conscientiously replaced by the locals every time the white ants eat it out. During the dry season, the winds blow continuously, and often we wait days for them to ease. This is typical. We travel until the wind velocity increases and it becomes too dangerous to continue, and then we head for shelter. Even in this protected bay, the winds are whipping at the bow, indicating that conditions in open waters are too rough. But there's a pleasant side to such an extended journey. We shelter in a little-known bay with delightful scenery and no one else around. Shells, washed up by cyclones, lie in heaps all along the shore. Nowhere have I seen such a variety and so many. As Brett begins collecting, I think of all the people who dream of spending some time in a peaceful wilderness such as this. We decide to stay until the weather clears and prepare to winch Lauloki clear of the water on the rising tide. With plenty of rope, a few logs under the hull, and a small hand winch, even big boats can be moved to safety on the sand. To get the boat back into the water, you reverse the procedure at low tide. And now it's time for a feed. While checking the charts, I notice an island well out to sea to the northeast. I confirm our position, calculate if sufficient fuel is available for the diversion, and we're on our way. It's supposed to be the dry season, but the stormy weather follows us north. At last, a perfect day, and the visit to Forbes Island proves to be well worthwhile. A magic place. Few people land on this island, surrounded by dangerous reefs and so far from the main shipping channel. Brett, with years of experience in the bush, has no trouble replenishing our food supply. This looks easy, but really takes plenty of practice. I was shown this technique as a boy while living on the island of Nauru in the Central Pacific. The continuing windy conditions have kept the fish off the bite. So with Brett landing this nice mackerel, we hope our luck will change. One of the most highly esteemed eating fish is the coral trout, and we've located a good patch. The fishing has been so poor that Roger, a professional fisherman working out from Cooktown, is only too happy to accept our extra fish. Roger and his offsider will spend weeks fishing until the freezer is full of fillets. As Roger says, I've worked all over the world, and this is the best life I know. I love fishing, and this way I get paid to do it. The trolling lines are beginning to produce some reasonable surface fish, when suddenly we notice frantic bird activity and white water ahead, and it all begins to happen. The echo sounder indicates that there are huge schools of fish below us. The black smudges are tons of trevally. We begin working small flies deep down and enjoy our best day's fishing since leaving Sydney. Brett has never fished in salt water before, and he revels in the sport. After 42 days in the boat, we round the top of Australia, Cape York, gateway to Niugini. Another 2 hours finds us at Thursday Island, known affectionately as TI. Once a famous pearling port, it survives now as a service centre for the islands, passing boats, and the prawning industry. Relics of World War II. The imposing customs house and famous Grand Hotel are reminders of the good old days. Like this yacht with her broken mast, many round-the-world voyagers have good reason to celebrate their arrival on TI. Ever since leaving Sydney, I've calculated that our crossing of Torres Strait would coincide with the changing of the seasons. As expected, the doldrums arrive, the wind vanishes, and TI prepares for the onslaught of the cyclone season. And we immediately head for Yam Island, halfway across the strait. A peaceful, orderly settlement is still very much a part of Australia. A pearling lugger arrives with our last drum of fuel for the run to Niugini. It's relatively easy to get the drum ashore. Petrol is lighter than water. Every one of our fuel dumps had to be arranged before we left Sydney. A barge had dropped fuel for us at selected spots along the North Queensland coast, and without this careful planning for an adequate fuel supply, this journey would have been impossible. Now we're regularly carrying up to 800 litres. A large centre tank holds 200 litres, and another 600 is stored under the floor and in the cruise tanks. The barrier reef runs from southern Queensland right up to the coast of New Guinea. No matter how many times I dive on the reef, the magnificence of the coral and the fish overwhelms me. And this is how I always remember it: the variety of the coral shapes, the vibrant colours, and the countless fish. This area is just a few square metres. The total length of the reef is over 2,000 kilometres. It's one of the world's great natural wonders and must be preserved for future generations to enjoy. Brett, skin diving for the first time, comes up with something to eat. Throughout Torres Strait, tens of thousands of these crayfish are taken by divers every year, and it's become an important industry. However, it's necessary for divers to spear the crayfish on the sea bottom. This species will not crawl into traps. And it's the end of a perfect day. A tiny island, the warm evening sun, and great food. Fresh mangoes and crayfish. These are the moments that make these trips so memorable. We're impatient to reach New Guinea, but it's not going to be easy. According to the charts, we're in several meters of water, yet on the dropping tide, there's only reef as far as the eye can see. We're stuck here all day. But the tide finally turns and we can keep moving. All over Australia, radio operators are monitoring our progress. This morning, there's extra interest when I broadcast that 2 months after leaving Sydney, we're finally entering New Guinea waters. Even though mainland Australia is only 150 nautical miles to the south, New Guinea and its people and their lifestyles are very different. These magnificent seagoing canoes plying along the coast soon become a common sight. In the coming weeks, we'll see hundreds of these craft, each area having its own distinctive type. Our first port of call is Daru to advise the authorities of our arrival. A small, low island, 3 kilometres from the New Guinea mainland, it's the principal town for the West Gulf region and the home of 7,000 people. The large two-masted outrigger canoes are unique to this area. I'm told their design was adapted from the Portuguese vessels that sailed these seas centuries ago. Every family owns a canoe. It's the only means of transport, and the children are taught the fundamentals of sailing at an early age. It's the barramundi season, and tons of the fish are brought in from the Fly River Delta, 20 kilometres to the east. The quantity and size of the catch interests me, and I'm keen to visit the fishing grounds. The canoe people arrive from mainland villages, staying for a few days to socialise, trade and purchase supplies. One group trades extensively in turtle meat. They harpoon the giant reptiles far out to sea and bring them back to Daru to be butchered and sold in the market. The marketplace, well shaded from the scorching sun, is the island's trading and social centre. Open every day, people come to talk and barter. Money is used in these developed areas, but away from the main centres, tobacco is the trading item preferred. Restocked with fuel and fresh food, we travel west. We're heading for the Indonesian border, so we identify ourselves with our Australian flag. The border is difficult to locate. A simple aluminium cairn erected by an Australian survey team is the only marker. West Irian is over there, through the mangroves. The Bensback River flows out to sea at the border, and we motor up this waterway to see the Rusa deer roaming free. Introduced by the Dutch in 1913, they're gradually spreading across the Niugini swamplands. No other region in New Guinea offers a traveller a chance to view so many species of wildlife so closely. Tourists now visit this area, flying to a lodge further up the river where they can hire a native guide. The grass, worn like a toupee, is an added attraction when the male goes courting. The deer are a valuable resource for this newly independent nation, and the government is initiating plans to farm the herds of thousands now running wild. The 20th century is reaching into even these remote places, and outboard motor power is becoming increasingly common on many of the waterways. Canoe trails through the swamps are regularly used and free of obstacles, so we're able to make good time. Ahead of us lies the objective of the expedition, a long, hazardous journey up the little-known Fly River. Returning to Daru, we refuel, then motor east to join the Barramundi fishermen at the mouth of the Fly River. It's hard to accept that it's a river, for at this point it's 60 kilometres wide. The traditional landowners, given government assistance, are now netting huge quantities of fish. Hundreds of nets are strung across the mud flats. The fish, on their yearly migration to the sea to spawn, are caught on the rising tide and removed as the tide recedes. No one except the owner of each area is allowed to set nets, and these are jealously guarded. The Fly River Delta is reputed to be one of the most prolific areas in the world for these magnificent tablefish. With the aid of the currents and the wind, the barramundi, stored in the bottom of the dugout canoes, are immediately shipped to the freezers on Daru. As we continue upriver, floating logs become a constant navigational hazard. Small tribal groups spend much of their time camped in the mangroves along the banks. Life is harsh. At high tide, the water flows under the huts, and the people wait patiently for the tide to recede so that they can venture out to collect whatever food is available. This small fish, a shellfish and a few shrimps, is all that this woman has found for her family after hours spent searching in the mangrove thickets. The area is rich in mud crabs, and when sufficient are captured, the people sail for Daru to trade. Upon our unexpected arrival, I'm able to obtain one of my favorite meals. Trading is a serious affair. Stick tobacco and newspaper now take preference over money. The newsprint used for cigarette paper, by law, must have lead-free ink. I've been told that the Fly River is monotonous, depressing, disease-ridden, and unfit for Europeans. But to me, it's a fascinating region of ever-changing interest. Here's a man pushing his tiny craft against a formidable current as he heads upstream with coconuts to trade. To us, his progress seems unbearably slow. But these people are contented with their leisurely pace and have no desire to live any other way. As a complete contrast to the previous dugout, we come upon the largest canoe ever made in this region. 17 meters long, it's taken 3 months to shape. Another canoe of similar size is to be made. The two will be fixed together as a barge and powered by a diesel motor for moving timber to a sawmill, a village cooperative. Even today, few boats venture up the Fly. The motor vessel River Fly is government-owned, transporting supplies to settlements deep in the interior. We rendezvous with Derek Wolfe, the skipper. Derek is carting our fuel 300 kilometers up the river. We arrange our fuel dump, have a yarn, and we're on our way again, traveling deeper into the swamps. On either side, the jungle forms an impenetrable barrier along the water's edge. Fresh food is a necessity, and whenever possible we stop to trade. We can't understand one another, but the locals have fresh pineapples, coconuts and bananas, and we have the tobacco they prize. A fair deal is arrived at, and everyone is happy. The river is navigable for almost 1,000 kilometers. A third of the way up, we leave the Fly and motor into one of its tributaries, the Strickland, an even longer river. This region is one of the largest swamps in the world, and it's no place for anyone without a keen sense of adventure. We find the Bagwa men out hunting, making their way to the swamp where there's an abundance of the pitted-shelled turtle. It takes hours to clear the accumulated flotsam, jammed together by the previous season's rains. Crocodiles are common, but nobody is in the least perturbed by their presence. With considerable help, Laloki is manhandled over the thick, matted grass to places that never before have seen a motorboat. Eventually, the marshes are so thick that we leave Laloki to continue by canoe. Ever since leaving Sydney, I've hoped that we would make contact with the swamp people, and this chance meeting with the men is the beginning of a long association with the tribe. After many hours, we reach our destination and the hunt begins. As the paddles are jabbed into the water, the turtles release some air in panic. When the bubbles are spotted, the hunter dives and must grab the turtle before it can bite him. The river canoes have no outrigger like the ocean-going ones. Streamlined, they push through the rushes with the least possible resistance. It's tiring work, but the men are pleased. They have food for many days. And we're invited to join the hunters at their jungle camp, and the two guides are sent ahead with us to show us the way. Well, they're exhausted after their strenuous toil of the turtle hunt. The Bagwa people are spending the dry season away from their main village, and even now the old folk are still arriving, knowing that there will be a plentiful supply of food. This communal hut is only temporary and not nearly as substantial as their established village houses. The turtles are cured for up to 8 hours, and some are kept in bamboo corrals until they're needed. These freshwater turtles have recently been discovered in northern Australia. The Niugini wild dog, similar to the Australian dingo, has been domesticated and kept in packs to hunt wallaby and pigs. The wild dog doesn't bark, it howls, and when unhappy, broadcasts its misery mournfully. Crossbreeding with European dogs is resulting in some colourful combinations. To keep the dogs at bay during the night, we sleep on a platform like everyone else. A fire is kept smoking below to deter mosquitoes, although we're the only ones who possess mosquito nets for double protection. Upon leaving, it's imperative to drop the front door. This stops the dogs climbing up and stealing the food. In this region, there are no roads and no vehicles, so without a canoe, it's impossible to travel far. To construct a canoe, one first selects a suitable tree, chops it down, and then with infinite skill and patience, hollows it out. A canoe lasts between 2 and 5 years, depending on the size and type of timber used. When this one is ready for a test run, Bagwa, the owner, asks his relatives to help him slide it through the jungle to the river. For these people, even hard work becomes fun. Bagwa's new canoe floats perfectly. If it hadn't been satisfactory, he would literally have used it for firewood and started all over again. It's vital to maintain balance in a canoe, and children learn at an early age to drink this way. Life in the camp centers on the eternal problem of obtaining food, and many methods are employed. One that really intrigues me is the use of small mesh fish traps, constructed from a barbed vine in such a way that the barbs hook inwards. So as the fish pushes into the trap after the bait, the hooks dig into his flesh and it's immobilized. Large numbers of these traps are often kept set in the rivers and swamps. The women are rarely idle, and although industriously employed weaving a new sleeping mat, this young mother does not neglect her baby. A sago bag is a woman's most important utensil. The sago trees grow in the swamps. Their ownership strictly controlled by each tribe. Sago is the staple diet of many New Guinea tribes. Every few days, the women cut down some of the trees and prepare the sago. This is women's work. The men are the hunters. Water is always available just below the jungle floor. The white fluid running out is the sago. Hour after hour, the process is repeated until enough fluid is collected in the trough to yield a good supply of the glutinous sago. The washed-out pith is discarded. When the water is drained off, the sago, packed into tightly woven bags, is carried back to camp. Where the large branches leave the trunk of the sago tree, the pith is soft and pulpy, tasting like moistened rice. It's eaten regularly when sago is being prepared. Nearby, the men are excitedly toppling a decaying sago tree, and I soon discover why there's so much activity. Living in the rotting fibres are the local delicacy: large beetles and juicy grubs. After collecting such a prize, the men are keen to return to camp. Cooking in the coals is a small wallaby that the dogs have brought down. The beetles are lightly roasted for a minute before they're eaten. The beetles are palatable, although I find the grubs more tasty, with a flavour like sweet almonds. A bamboo tube is a popular utensil for cooking small food items. And after a meal, there's nothing like a smoke of homegrown tobacco. A leaf is rolled tightly, inserted in a narrow tube, and lit. I'm assured that it's a very strong brew. It's late when the women return, laden down with sago and babies. This area on the edge of the jungle has been cleared and cultivated and a garden established. These bags of sago weigh around 50 kilos. Add the weight of the growing infant, and you can see why the women have such well-developed neck muscles. Sago will last in storage for months, although usually it's eaten within a week. There are several ways of cooking sago. Lumps placed in the coals, wrapped in leaves, or as a paste wrapped around meat or fish. Powdered, it's heated in lengths of bamboo. Sayatala, who by now is a good friend, watches me intently for my reaction. It's sweeter than flour, and I much prefer it. For hunting, the men still use the traditional bow and arrow. The bow is shaped from split bamboo, and the string is a sliver of the same wood. Within the hour, it's finished. Bamboo arrows are straightened over a fire. A resinous red glue is squeezed from bark. And the arrow tip is fixed to the shaft with twine and the glue. There's a close bond between fathers and sons, and the boys are encouraged from an early age to become good hunters. Tips are made in many shapes and from a variety of materials. An arrow for shooting at birds would be shaped from the inner wood of the black palm. Carved cassowary claw and slivered bamboo are commonly used. These people are no longer involved in tribal warfare. They barter crocodile skins for clothing, knives, torches and fishing lines, with a trader travelling along the river. The jungle and their gardens supply all their food and most of their material possessions. The women do the daily mundane chores. The men are obliged to supply the meat. Cassowary, pig, wallaby, fish and jungle fowl are hunted. Brett and I are now totally involved with the daily activities. Today we go out after the cassowary, the huge flightless bird that lives deep in the jungle under the canopy of trees and vines and creepers. The men spread out in small groups, tracking the bird's large footprints in the leaf mould. The arrows have no quill and behave more like a small spear propelled by the powerful bow. The hunters follow the blood trail until they catch up with their injured quarry. Their first concern is whether the bird is fat. They're satisfied. This one will be rich and tender. These birds can be exceptionally dangerous. The nail of the middle toe is elongated to a lethal knife. The helmet-like casque is used to push through the thick underbrush. Care is taken when preparing the meat. The feathers are plucked and singed and the carcass is boned out and the meat shared equally. When we need a drink, water-laden palm shoots quench our thirst. One of the elders offers to show me his fighting gear, the decorated bow and an exquisite bird of paradise headdress. Strict laws control the hunting of these birds today. I'm surprised and honoured at the old man's gesture. A floating island, the first of many, drifts downstream, and we know that we must leave before the river chokes with grass and logs dragged into the water by the increasing wet season rains. The women, too, are packing, for soon they'll head upstream to the main village for the duration of the wet. We hurriedly pack Laloki, say a few farewells, and I give a sincere promise that I'll return within the year. And once again, we're on the move. 3 days later, we reach the Gulf of Papua. The rains have not arrived as far south as yet, and we skip across glassy, calm seas towards Port Moresby. 81 days out from Sydney, Laloki motors quietly into Port Moresby harbour. We drop anchor for the last time near the Royal Papua Yacht Club and begin packing up the gear for shipment back to Australia. The journey that so many people said would be impossible is over. The next day, it's a rush to the airport and we fly home. La Loki is left alone, rocking quietly at her moorings, waiting for her new owner.